Clive was telling me a story last night about the death dumps and how this is affecting us in the Morgellons. And he was telling me a story that just simply blew me off the seat. I was hearing it, didn't want to believe it. But you know, in the southeast, we have tremendously bad weather, especially if it's orchestrated, especially if it's manipulated and directed. And Clive, what were you telling me that was dropping out of the sky?
Well, what had happened is there was a study, you probably heard about this, a study on the hailstones that fell out of the sky in Joplin, St. Louis, and they cut the hailstones in half because they were so big. They analyzed them and found human bacteria, barium, aluminum, and several other particulates in them. So they came to this silly conclusion the bacteria was causing the tornadoes. But for people who know about chemtrails and know about these diseases, in fact, they found little things in them too that look like what people see on the Morgellons on the skin. So they found those in there too. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at a group of people that don't understand chemtrails and don't understand the pollutants and don't understand those things, trying to make heads or tails out of why there's bacteria found in hailstones. I can tell you that after research and doing some research about what went on in Oakville, Washington, I believe it was in the 1980s, that there were jelly-like substances dropped out of the sky. People got sick, and they fell on cars, they fell on cows, they fell over the entire area, and when they analyzed it, what they found was human white blood cells in the jelly. And they dropped it on a city, or somebody dropped it, and the military was saying that what happened is they were doing bombing runs over the Pacific Ocean, and what happened was it was jellyfish that were hit, and they went up into the sky and came down and landed there. We know differently.
Wait. You're not supposed to see this. You're not supposed to hear this. You really aren't. No, you're not supposed to talk about this. We're not supposed to talk this. So just sort of shut your mind down for 1 second. I want to ask you a question.
What you got?
Could this possibly be? I mean, come on. For real. Look at this guy. I mean, anything that he might say, who's going to think that this is credible? I mean, what's your feeling about what you've just heard?
Well, it's credible when you look at it yourself under your own microscope. I've done many snow and rain samples, environmental samples. I was very affected by this last winter, the East Coast. Went through a terrible battle. Got 4 or 5 researchers from Massachusetts down to Florida experiencing this and sampling and testing. Biologicals were spread across the whole gamut of the East Coast. They even let it dry and created a windstorm to whip it back up into the atmosphere in case they lost some of their concentration. Although I have confirmed, I feel some of these can float in the atmosphere almost endlessly.
This guy's a talk show host. Can't we just sort of discredit the stuff that comes out with a talk show host?
Well, I've been around this for too long now and seen too many of my own personal confirmations, even on the scientific side, which is not coming from me. We've had laboratory analysis now that has come out of a laboratory we're working with. We're finding ingredients coming out of human hair that is not possible to be in human hair.
Wow.
Of course it's possible. It's in your hair. But then it's impossible.
For sure, there's some unique ingredients that, of course, are not mentioned. It's kind of like talking to your dermatologist.
I want to ask you, one of the things that I've heard rumors about, these hailstones during the tornadoes, Corexit. I've heard that maybe, I don't have it confirmed yet, but I'm doing the research, Corexit was found in the hailstones.
Not good.
No, Corexit. Corexit is the treatment that they used in the Gulf to get rid of the oil spill.
That's the BP. This is an organism, as far as I know, it might possibly be an organism that feeds off of oil.
Yes.
Which is, if people can add that up and figure it out for themselves, what that represents, releasing such an organism unnatural to our earthly environment, you can do the rest and figure out what will happen.
Would you tell them directly, just take a look at the camera. Look in the camera.
Yeah.
Tell them what you just told me.
As far as the core exit, which possibly might have been contained in some of your research in that storm, we do know, as far as the Gulf and the release of this oil-eating microorganism, what that represents is it is unnatural to the human environment. And you can figure out the rest, I think, on your own by adding 1 and 1, and it does equal 2. It is pretty much a toxic brew for Mother Earth. Oil-eating ingredients are not supposed to be released across the Gulf of Mexico.
What do you think of what he's saying here? Is this just
I fully agree with what he's saying. I knew when, in fact, I talked something called Oil-mageddon, where there would be an Oil-mageddon where core exit or whatever it is being used would create a toxic, some sort of a toxic condition within the Gulf Stream, that we would be seeing all kinds of strange weather patterns. We have floods in the Mississippi. In fact, I talked to a woman on my show who's from Missouri, and she says that the weather there is so bad that the pressure systems are so low that people are in pain and they don't understand why. And I understand why. It's because when the low pressure systems move into any area, the bodies are affected. Any operation you've had, any surgeries you've had, any bad back you have, if you played football in high school, you start feeling it in the knees or in the back. Those types of things come back.
Listen, wait a minute. We've got a website, aircrap.org. We've got ourenglanduk.com, commoncrime.net. Do you have a webmaster that could put some of this information out?
Yeah. In fact, Olaf Phillips is my webmaster, and he's here at the con today, and he'd be able to put some of that information out. In fact, I was going to do, I want to put it out, though, when I do more research. I'm dropping this now because I've been researching it, and I talked with the chief meteorologist in Portland the other day. There was a cyclone that appeared in the central states and moved through the area, and we had predicted that it would be severe weather in New York, Massachusetts, places like that. We had the tornadoes near the Connecticut River in Massachusetts, near Springfield, rather. And now, for those of us that are watching the weather now, here in the Bay Area, there's a cyclone forming off the coast right now.
Wait a minute. Listen, you look like a guy who was a weatherman. You had some... It says
you meteorology for a long time and want to be a weatherman, yes.
So your name is...
Clyde Lewis. I own a mansion in the yacht. No, I'm just kidding.
Clyde Lewis.
Yes.
Yeah, and you tell another lie, you'll turn to stone.
Yeah, my nose will grow. But no, there is a cyclone forming off the coast. I don't know if everybody knows this, but they're expecting anywhere between 40 to 60 mile an hour winds, thunder, lightning, rain, and tornadoes in the northern part of California. That has been issued. I don't know why people aren't talking about it. In fact, my fiance sent me the cyclone. It's a big one, and it's coming our way, and it'll be here probably tomorrow night.
Come back.